Renowned author Stanley Johnson has completed 10 days in Uganda, where he toured various places and was notably hosted by President Yoweri Museveni, whom he hailed as exemplary.
The past 10 days for Stanley Johnson, who is the father of former United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson, have been of splendor as he toured Uganda. From visiting religious sites like Lubaga, Gaddafi Mosque, Namirembe and Namugongo, Stanley was hosted by President Yoweri Museveni, whom he hailed.
Well, yes, the highlight was the fact was when we went on a visit to the State House and were received by the President, President Museveni. It was fantastic. I would say that we had about almost an hour's discussion with him in the splendor of the state room, and that was that was something definitely worth having. Very funny, very enjoyable. Really enjoyed talking to him, and he told some very funny stories, which I won't go into here.
A stop at Uganda's tourist sites in Gahinga and Kibale will resonate forever to a man whose passion for the environment is second to none. He also toured and learned about Uganda's industrial trajectory at Namokekera, and also visited the Meta and Madivani families that have lasted decades in business.
I take home that this is an extraordinary country. It was not by accident that Winston Churchill described this as the Pearl of Africa. It is the Pearl of Africa. I've been here a couple of times, but this is the first time I've had a long visit looking at different places in detail. Some of them I've been to before, particularly Kibale. I've also been across the lake and to Gamble Island and things like that. But for me, the long visit we had in Mahinga and also in the chimpanzees in Kibale and in the gorge and the wonderful boat trip on the canal. When I say the canal, the channel between Lake George and Lake Erie. These have been highlights from the natural history point of view, realizing that Uganda does have an astonishing resource. Of course, the gorillas, the chimpanzees, these are absolutely exceptional. And I've got to say, as far as the mountain gorillas are concerned, they are really unique. Yes, there's some in Rwanda, some in the DRC, Virunga Park, but here, what you have, and I went to four of the lodges, for example, run by Volcanoes Safari. Volcanoes, a family business almost, said it's been going over for the last 40 years. For me, it was also extremely interesting to see some things which are not actually just the wildlife things. For example, I visited ginger. I visited the Madvani enterprises, or the sugar enterprises, the gin making enterprises.
His visit was initiated by the Uganda High Commission UK and saw him interact with the British High Commissioner to Uganda.
This would never have happened unless Nimisha Madvani, who of course is the distinguished High Commissioner in London, and her close associate Miriam Tengo, if they had not worked day and night, in a way, it was like, getting someone to the top of a mountain. You don't see all the hard work which goes on, all the Sherpas, all the hard work, all the telephoning, all the arrangements. You know, I've been the lucky one. I've just been able to appear from time to time. But getting me to these places has required an awful lot of effort, and that effort, I've got to say, has been principally borne by the Ugandan High Commission and particularly the two ladies whose names I have just mentioned.
He also lauded Uganda Tourism Board and agencies like Volcanoes and Uganda Airlines for a tour that will remain etched in his memory. But despite touring major establishments, he craves a return to Uganda that will educate him more about other regions of the country.
For me, there's some things I feel I want to see and haven't seen this time. I've not yet been up into what you might call the Nilotic regions of Uganda. And I can see that what will be interesting here is not just the variations of wildlife, but also the variations in terms of the people. This is something which interests me a lot. What you realize when you come to this country is actually this is a country which very much reflects its heritage. It is, if you like, a collection still of kingdoms. I've been lucky here to have seen so much about the Baganda kingdom, but I do realize that there are other massively important kingdoms in Uganda which make the whole, as it were, collection of kingdoms. And I look forward to seeing some of those kingdoms in more detail than I've done this time.
Under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ugandan agencies abroad are mandated to promote the country. This the High Commission in the UK has done and will continue next week with another delegation that arrives for an education program with Makerere University.
What's wonderful is that we've just been hosting a pioneer of United Kingdom in Uganda, Mr. Stanley Johnson, who is an advocate for the environment and protection of the environment, wetlands, which is completely synchronized with what our head of state, President Museveni, also advocates. And seeing the mountain gorillas at this stage, to see how beautiful our country is and to recognize where we are in our development strategy, which is what I had said right at the beginning when Mr. Johnson came, that Uganda is on a trajectory of growth, on tourism, on the environment, and it is a country that is reborn. And as he goes away back to London on Uganda Airlines, it shows also that we have given Uganda Airlines a rebirth. And what Winston Churchill said, the pearl of Africa, he carries that pearl back to United Kingdom, and he's going to help us make it shine even more.
Particular gratitude to the UK High Commissioner, Lisa Chesney, who gave us really a wonderful lunch, and we were able to talk together. H.M. Stanley was here. Murchison was here. For me, it's very moving